Okay, so for this activity, what you're going to do is identify the shapes needed to make a certain type of shape. So if you look over here on the left, it says Introduction to 3D Primitive Shapes. It tells you some of the different types of shapes that you're going to find over here in the basic shape area. And it tells you that it's important to be able to break down the product that you want to make into the individual shapes it will take to make it. So here it shows you a picture of a chair, and it asks you what are the shapes necessary to being able to build this chair. And if you look at the chair itself, you can see that there's probably 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of these rectangles that are needed to be able to make that chair. So if you look down here at the picture, it gives you an idea of what that would look like if you broke it down into the different pieces before you put it all together. Then it asks you to continue on to think about what shapes are necessary to build this rocket ship. So if you look at this, we see a round shape here. We see sort of a cone shape that leads inward. So if we think about the different shapes needed to make this rocket ship here, I don't think we need this box. Don't think we need a tube. We definitely aren't going to need this shape over here. So we're left with essentially these 3 shapes. And as you can see here in the picture, that's exactly what we need to be able to make that rocket ship. So now we're going to attempt to actually do that by using this image here. So we can see that we need the cylinder in the middle with lots of the spheres on either side to make them rounded, and then it takes 2 cones on the bottom to create that base shape. So that's what we're going to do now. So to make our lives easier here, we're going to start with our cylinder and our sphere out of the way. So we'll move these over. We're going to take our cone and we're going to do Control C, Control V so that we have 2 cones. And we're going to click on the rotate button and we're going to type in 180 degrees because we want to flip it upside down. So if we type in here to our angle 180 degrees, it's being stubborn. Let's try that one more time. 180. There we go. So now that is upside down. If we use our right button on our mouse, we can kind of adjust how we can see this here. So you can see that these 2 shapes are next to each other. We want them to be one on top of the other. So if we drag and click and use our align tool and we click center, it now has this shape where one is on top of the other, and we're going to go ahead and click this button up here to go ahead and group those 2 together so they don't come apart anymore. Now that we have our base, we're going to take our larger cone here, or sorry, not cone, but cylinder, and we're going to do Control C, Control V to make a copy. We're going to drag over a work plane and set it directly on top of the cone right here. And now we are going to click the button D to drop this cylinder onto this work plane. So it's now on this work plane, which is sitting on top of this cone here. However, you can't tell because it's over to the side. So if we drag it over on top of here, you can actually see that it's sitting on top. But to make that work better, we're going to actually align it using this tool here. So we're going to highlight all of these 2 shapes at the same time. And we're going to use this align tool, and we're going to tell it that we want to align these 2 shapes to each other. Let's see if we can actually get this to do what we want it to here. It's being stubborn, so I'm going to try and drop the work plane back to the bottom here and see if that makes a difference. So now when I try and go ahead and highlight these 2 shapes, now it works. So if I click align, I'm going to align them to the center and to the center, so now they're perfectly aligned. I'm going to go ahead and group these 2 things together. And now you can see I'm getting closer to the shape of my rocket ship. I'm going to do the exact same thing now to put my sphere on top of this shape to give it that rounded part on top here. So if I click my work plane again, I'm going to change how I view this shape. I'm going to click my work plane, drag it over, put it on top of the cylinder. I'm going to click on the sphere down here. I'm going to do Control C, Control V just to make a copy. And now when I click on just one of those and hit the button D, it drops it to the work plane. Then I'm going to hold down the shift button, I'm going to grab the work plane, drop it back on the ground over here. Then I'm going to hold my shift button and click on my other object over here so that it selected now this shape and this shape. You can see because they're both outlined in this like light blue sort of rim here. And we're going to use the align tool again to align to the middle and align to the middle. And you can see that this one is now sitting on top, but that doesn't look quite right. So before we can group these together, what we need to do is click off of the shape. And if we zoom out just a smidge and click back on this sphere, you can see there's a big triangle on top that is black. If you click on that triangle and drag it down, it actually will lower the shape into this other shape here. So we want to lower it enough that's about halfway point so that you can see it creates the dome of your rocket. And now that we've done that, we can highlight all of those shapes together and group them so they don't come apart. And we are mostly done. You can see all we have left are these little shapes over on the side. So now what we're going to do to create that is we're going to take our cylinder here, we're going to bring it over nice and close so we can see it a little better. We're going to make it a lot smaller. So it's at 20. I'm going to make it, let's say 5. And if I click on the other side here, I want to make this one 5, so it's exactly the same on either side here. And then I want my sphere to be the same shape or same size. So I'm going to make this one 5 and 5. Now, to be able to do that though, oh, that's way too big. I don't want that to be 5 tall, so we're going to make it 20 tall. We're going to make it 5 tall, so we have a little one here. Now we need a lot of those little blue spheres to be able to put on the top and the bottom of this cylinder. So I need 2, one on top, one on bottom. I have 1 right now, so I'm going to do Control-C, Control-V. So now I have 2, and you can't really see them, so I'm going to click off it. Now you can see both. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to zoom in on my object, and you can't see it, so I'm going to change it so that it focuses directly on that object by clicking this box over here. And now I'm going to zoom out just a little so I can see on top. I'm going to do the same thing I did before where I'm going to put my work plane on top of my cylinder here. I'm going to click one of the spheres and hit D, and you can't see it because it's now looking like it's floating in the air. And if I do that, drop my work plane back on the ground, and then hold shift and click on my cylinder, I can now do the align tool to do center and center so that this is now sitting on top just like we did with the other one. But we want to drop that sphere down. So again, we want to zoom out, click on that blue sphere and lower it so that it is now in the middle of the sphere. And you can see it creates that rounded edge to the cylinder. And now we can group those 2 shapes together. So if we click on the base and hold shift and then click on the sphere and hit the group button, you can see those 2 together. Now we just need to do the same thing for the bottom side. So what I can do to make this easier for myself is I'm actually just going to click on the rotate button and I'm going to rotate it 180 degrees so that now my flat end is on top this time. And then I can do exactly what I did before. So I'm going to take my work plane, drop it on top of my cylinder here, click on my sphere, hit the D button, and then I'm going to drop my work plane back on the ground, select shift and click on my cylinder so that both objects are selected, hit my align tool, center, center, so that they're both lined up, click off of it for a moment, click on just the sphere, and use that black triangle on top to lower my sphere back down. And it's being stubborn because it wants me to use the rotation. So I'm going to change how I'm looking at it and try again. Sometimes just changing our angle of our view changes how things work. So now I'm lowering it using the triangle. Now that that's lowered, I'm going to hit shift and click on my cylinder in the middle here and group those 2 shapes. Now that I have this entire piece here looking like almost like a little pill, I need a bunch of those to go around the outside of my rocket here. So to do that, now that I've made all those looking nice and neat, I'm just going to do Control-C, Control-V so that I don't have to make all of those individually again. So I'm going to do that. Let's say I'm going to do it 6 times. So I did Control-C, Control-V. So now I have 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Now I just need to put them up on my rocket here. So to do that, again, I'm gonna actually highlight all of them so that I can bring all of them to the right height at the same time. So I'm gonna highlight all these shapes and I'm gonna raise them up in the air to put them at the height of this piece. And it's hard to tell from where I am now. So I'm gonna rotate my direction so I can see a little better how high I'm going to make it. And it takes a second just to kind of get it at the right space here. So now I'm gonna raise this up in the air and I'm gonna click off of it. And then I'm gonna drag each one individually over and place it on the side of my little rocket ship here. So I have one, and drag over another one. Let's see, two. And then I can rotate around again. And I'm gonna click on this center tool so that I can kind of stay focused on my shape here so I can see better. Click off it, drag another one over. And again, I'm gonna rotate around. This one looks like it's a little too far in, so I'm gonna pull it out just a smidge. Now I drag over another one, place it on my rocket, turn again. You can see I'm doing it almost even on each side. It doesn't have to be perfect, just as best you can. So now I'm going to drag this one over and put it about here. Then my last one, drag it over and place it about here. So you can see that they all look about the same all the way around. And now if I rotate my view, you can see that these are all angled on the sides here. And to do my final touch, I can highlight the whole thing and group it. It does make it all one color when you group it. So what you can do once it's done, since it's all purple and I want to change the colors, if I click on this down arrow, there we go. And I click on the color, I can select multicolor, and then I can actually individually select what I want the different colors of my rocket ship to be. So if I like the colors of blue here, I can leave that blue. If I want to change my base, I could click on this part here and I could make that, let's say, green. So we could change all the different things if we wanted to. You just have to select what colors you want for different parts. And that's all you have to do for primitive shapes. Good luck.